Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or The Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, I'm bringing you guys a top 10 fantasy football players for 2020. These are going to be the guys that I have ranked in order from 1 to 10 to where I think they will finish at the end of the season in fantasy points. Now, we're talking more on the half PPR or full PPR basis. I don't really play in any standard leagues. I play in 10 leagues. One of them is standard, so I figured half PPR to PPR is the normal. Now, let me know, guys, down below in the comments if you'd rather me go from 1 to 10 on these next rankings or from 10 to 1. I'll probably make this video a couple of times over the offseason as these guys move up and down my draft board. So like I said, top 10 fantasy football players for 2020. If you guys end up enjoying this video, please make sure to click that subscribe button down below. Follow me on Twitter as well, at NotoriousFNTSY. So as we get into it, my number one player, we're starting off here at number 1, is Run CMC, Christian McCaffrey, running back of the Carolina Panthers. Now, this man just got the richest running back contract in NFL history, and goddamn does he deserve it. This man is a running back and a wide receiver combined. This motherfucker was running back number 1 in 2019. 471.2 PPR points, and he was so many ahead of the guy who finished in second place. It was embarrassing. This guy was absolutely molly-whopping the competition week in and week out, and let me tell you, this man was as consistent as it gets. 29.4 PPR points per game in 16 games. He played every single game, and now his back may be sore in the offseason from carrying that team to just a couple of wins, but he will be fine and ready to go. He didn't even get hurt. He will just be ready to go once the season begins. Almost 30 points per game. He had one game that was down below 10 points. Every other game was legitimately a absolute smacking of the defense. He was hitting them with the backhand, the forehand. He was pimp slapping defenses. 19 total touchdowns for Christian McCaffrey last season. First amongst running backs, 1.3 thousand rushing yards, third amongst running backs, and 116 receptions on 141 targets. 1,000 receiving yards. So he hit 1,000 rush yards, over 1,000 receiving yards, and he had 116 receptions. PPR, half PPR, standard, it does not matter, regardless of what type of league you are playing in. This guy is the number 1 overall pick. He will likely finish as the number 1 player in fantasy football. Now, I know people in the comments, they're going to tell you, oh, Nick, you know, normally the number 1 running back doesn't repeat. That hasn't happened in years. I don't give a fuck. Christian McCaffrey is the safest pick. He doesn't seem to have any injury history. He seems to be a guy that is going to be dominating week in and week out for your fantasy lineups. That's why I got Mr. Run CMC Christian McCaffrey at my 101, my 1 overall ranked fantasy football player in 2020. Coming in at number 2, we have Saquon Barkley, running back of the New York Football Giants. Now, last season, he finished as running back number 10. In 2019, 244.1 PPR points. In 2019, 18.8 points per game in PPR in 13 games. So he still finished as a top 10 running back, missing 3 games. Now, in one of those games, he got hurt like at the beginning of the game. So his points per game would be even higher. Saquon Barkley finished with 8 total touchdowns, 12th amongst running backs, over 1,000 rushing yards, 15th amongst running backs, 52 receptions on 73 targets, 438 receiving yards. So I know his numbers aren't as glamorous as Mr. CMC, but that's just because CMC scores so many more points than everyone else in fantasy football. Saquon Barkley is going to be a beast again. I know he got hurt last year, but there is no injury concern to me. He got back. This dude, it seemed like he was going to be out a month, right? A month and a half, and he said, fuck it, let me get right back in the saddle, and was dominating in those games behind a bad Giants offensive line. If the Giants address line in the draft, which they should, great. If they don't, who gives a fuck, because he is still going to be dominating. That just ups his echelon to be even better. Daniel Jones realistically should be better. This team should be better in 2020. Saquon Barkley slotted in at the second best player to draft in fantasy football this year. I love Saquon Barkley. He's who I would be taking at the 102 in all drafts. Now to the 103 is Ezekiel Elliott, running back of the Dallas Cowboys. Now this is where it gets a bit confusing to many. A bit different between each analyst of fantasy football. So some people like Zeke, some people like guys that I have picked later here, but I like Zeke. Now, Nick, why do you like Zeke? Well, one reason is this man runs behind one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, if not the best. This team loves to run the ball. The clapper Jason Garrett is out of there. They're going to be running the rock a million times. Tony Pollard is behind him. Sure, Tony Pollard is an amazing talent, but Tony Pollard cannot hold Ezekiel Elliott's jockstrap when it comes to playing time. Ezekiel Elliott will dominate playing time on the field. He is going to dominate in the offense. The Dallas Cowboys are going to be good again this year. Finished running back 3 last year. I don't see why he can't do it again. He was in the debate to be the #1 overall pick last season in fantasy football, so I don't see why 1 year off of doing great and being running back 3, why he can't be in that debate again, strictly because Christian McCaffrey is just really good. But with that said, Ezekiel Elliott could be your number 2. I wouldn't disagree with it. 19.5 PPR points per game in 2019. He played every single game. 14 total touchdowns, 5 amongst running backs, 1,357 rushing yards, 4th amongst running backs, 54 receptions on 71 targets, and 420 blaze it receiving yards for Ezekiel Elliott. Now, I know that was a bit dumb, but now you can smoke the weed in the NFL and they will not suspend you, so you're all good for you Ezekiel Elliott fans. He never has gotten caught doing that. I know he did get caught being at a party, but who gives a fuck? Like, come on. Ezekiel Elliott, just smarten up here. Ezekiel Elliott is going to be great yet again. He was one of those guys where the argument in the past was Ezekiel Elliott cannot catch passes. And you know what Ezekiel Elliott did? It was either this year or the year before. He said, let me learn how to catch the ball. Let me stand in front of these jugs machines. That's the thing where it just feeds you the fucking rock. And he's just catching them left and right. And now he is going to be catching wins for your fantasy football team at the 103. Now at the 104, we see the first wide receiver of the draft for me is Michael Thomas at the 104, wide receiver of the New Orleans Saints. Now last year, he was the #1 wide receiver in fantasy football, 374.6 PPR points. 149 receptions on 185 targets, 9 touchdowns, 3rd in the NFL wide receiver, 1,725 yards, 1st in NFL at the wide receiver position. Now, what did the Saints do in the offseason? They re-signed Drew Brees to a 1-year contract, which Michael Thomas obviously didn't really need because he was fine with Teddy Bridgewater. And you know what else they did? They brought in Emmanuel Sanders. Now, there are going to be people that overreact and are going to be thinking that Emmanuel Sanders is going to take anything from Michael Thomas. If anything, this helps. It was legitimately Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara versus the world when they were both healthy. All right? Michael Thomas is going to eat yet again. Without a doubt, they could draft another wide receiver in the draft, and I would not give less of a fuck. Michael Thomas is going to be dominant again. 185 targets. Think about that. 185 targets and 149 receptions. That's 149 free points. Divide that by 2 if you're playing in half PPR. This guy is a target machine. He gets the ball thrown to him 10 plus times a game. This guy is a beast on the field. He's can't guard Mike for a reason. You cannot guard this guy. He is going to get the rock so often in 2020. He's still a young man. Age is not a concern when it comes to Michael Thomas. Coming in at the 4th pick for the #1 overall wide receiver. God dang, is that beautiful. Now, coming in here at number 5, we have Alvin Kamara, running back of the New Orleans Saints. If you guys have enjoyed this video thus far, we are halfway through to number 10. Please click that subscribe button down below. It would really mean a lot to me. It's going to mean a lot to you because I'm going to take you guys to the Fantasy Football Championship. So at number 5, we got running back number 9 in 2019, Alvin Kamara. 248.52 PPR points, 17.8 points per game in 14 games, 6 total tutties, 26th amongst running backs, 797 rushing yards, 22nd amongst running backs, 81 receptions on 97 targets, 533 receiving yards. This guy had a down year. He was also one of the 4 horsemen that were considered to be drafted at the 101 last season to most analysts and experts. It was Zeke, Saquon, Mr. CMC, and Alvin Kamara, and some people were crazy and they wanted David Johnson. But with that said, I think that Alvin Kamara has a bounce-back year. His down year was running back number 9. His down year. This man is going to play much better. Latavius Murray is still there. But what does Latavius Murray matter? You saw last season that Latavius Murray was not given the ball really at all. I think that Alvin Kamara, when he is healthy, is a slotted running back one on your roster week in and week out. That pass catching upside is amazing for Alvin Kamara. I know you might be looking at his stats and you might be like, Nick, how does a guy who can't get 1,000 rushing yards or get over 700 receiving yards make it into your top 5? Well, that's because he did not play. He missed 2 games. And he had a down year. He is going to bounce back next year and play even better. Alvin Kamara, my 105. Now at number 6 is where it gets dicey. There are going to be people in the comments section calling for my head, but I am going to give my own opinion. This is my fucking video, not the comment section. So I love the comment section though. Make sure you leave a comment actually if you disagree with this. I'd love to actually hear what you guys think, and I will comment back my response with what I think. So Joe Mixon, running back of the Cincinnati Bengals, is my 6th ranked fantasy football player in 2020. Running back number 13 in 2019, 225.4 PPR points, 14.1 points per game, 16 games, 8 total tutties, 12th amongst running backs, 1,138 rush yards, 8th amongst running backs, 35 receptions on 45 targets, 287 receiving yards. Those stats are not sexy at all. Joe Mixon was a disappointment for 8 games in the season, 9 games in the season. This man was a liability in your roster, and it was impossible to bench him because of the talent. Joe Mixon has talent, but you know what happened before the NFL season began last year? His O-line decided to die. They decided to just die. They drafted a starting tackle or a starting offensive lineman in the draft. You know what happened? He gets injured. Joe Mixon behind a better line. It's going to be Joe and Joe. Joey Burrow is getting drafted to the Cincinnati Bengals. He is going to turn this shit tier organization around. Joe Mixon is going to eviscerate defenses like he did late last season. 35 receptions on 45 targets. Sure, he's not going to be a target monster, but at least he is still involved in the passing game. Joe Mixon, to me, is a guy I will not miss out on. Now, he is not getting nowhere near drafted at the 106. He is more of a back half of the first round kind of guy, and I love that value because I see Joe Mixon potentially being a top 6 player in fantasy football in 2020. Next guy here, we got Dalvin Cook. Now, this is the guy that the comment section has hitting me hard about. Dalvin Cook, Minnesota running back. Now, Nick, why do you not like Dalvin Cook? Why is he ranked at number 7 when he finished at number 6 last year in just 14 games? So, the reason why I don't like Dalvin Cook is that injury history. This man loves to find his way into that blue tent. Now, you might be thinking, Nick, he played fine last year, 14 games. Got hurt towards the end of the season. That is a perfectly fine explanation for me. I think if he can stay healthy, this guy is a top 5 back. Potentially top 2. Okay? That's what I think. But I am worried about his health. Stefanski got his ass shipped to Cleveland. Dalvin Cook was built and bred by Stefanski. He is the reason why that offense ran the ball so many times. Now, will they run the ball as much this year? Probably not. Similar? Yes. Dalvin Cook will eat. He will be good. I just worry about that injury history when it comes with Dalvin Cook. Now, in 2019, he finished as RB6. Like I said, 292.4 PPR points in 2019, 20.9 points per game in 14 games, 13 total tutties, 7th amongst running backs, 1.135 rushing yards, 9th amongst running backs, 53 receptions on 63 targets, and 519 receiving yards. So a great season from Dalvin Cook. I do not dispute that. But if I draft Dalvin Cook, you better believe you have to leave the draft with his handcuff. First time we've talked about a handcuff. Handcuff him with Alexander Mattison, and you'll be walking out of the draft giddy as fuck. But if you are not able to get Alexander Mattison, I would probably be very, very sad because I just do not believe Dalvin Cook can stay healthy. That is not a bias. It's just a fact. He just cannot stay healthy. So he's been in the league for 3 years, has never completed a season full 16 games. So next guy here at number 8 is Tyreek Hill, wide receiver of the Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl champions. He finished wide receiver number 30 last season. 188.3 PPR points, 58 receptions on 89 targets, 7 total tutties, 13th amongst wide receivers, 860 yards, 31st amongst wide receivers. Only played in 12 games. Played multiple games without Pat Mahomes. So he played 12 games finished wide receiver 30. Wide receiver 30 is not sexy. It is not hot. It is not going to go get you out there and be like, holy shit, I need Tyreek Hill. But what you need to understand is when Tyreek Hill and Pat Mahomes are on the field together, that is an ungodly connection. Mahomes has the arm. Hill has the speed. Hill is one of those guys that is like, when you were playing Street, the video game, if you ever played that, a game breaker, a game winner. This man will blow up for 30 points in your roster and absolutely slap your opponent. He has those games where he could score 40 points. He has those games where he scores 2 touchdowns and goes for 150 yards. This guy is a beast. I like Tyreek Hill. I like him as my wide receiver 2, and that's where he's getting drafted here. Not the wide receiver 2 on my team, but the wide receiver number 2 overall. Now, I do have a bit of a debate with another wide receiver that we are going to be talking about soon, but I think for right now, I'm going to trust Tyreek Hill at number 8. Now, at number 9, we have Big Dick Nicholas Chubb, running back of the Cleveland Browns. Now, what you have to understand is I brought this up for Dalvin Cook. Mr. Stefanski coming into town. They said, Freddie Kitchens, get the fuck out of here. And it's now the Nick Chubb show. Nick Chubb, Nick full Chubb this season. They're going to run the ball early and often. Odell Beckham Jr. is not good anymore. He wants out of there. He's not good. Jarvis, not going to play for the first couple of games. Maybe not even the first 3 months of the season. Running back number 8 in 2019 for Mr. Nicholas Chubb, 255.2 PPR points in 2019, 16 PPR points per game in 16 games, 8 total touches, 12th amongst running backs, 1494 rushing yards, second amongst running backs. He would have had the rushing title if they let him loose week 17. They decided to hold him back. And Derrick Henry passed him, but it's okay. 36 receptions on 49 targets, 278 receiving yards. He's not a pass-catching back. I expect that to go down slightly. Now, Dalvin Cook got a lot of passes out of the backfield, but they do have Kareem Hunt. But do not fret about Kareem Hunt coming back. Do not fret that he will be there for 16 games, because if you watch the games, Nick Chubb was still involved. He's going to be the guy getting the ball on the goal line. Nick Chubb is going to eat like Ezekiel Elliott in 2020. I really like Nick Chubb. He's a back half of the first-round pick that I lock in, and I am very happy about in my draft. Now, coming in at the final pick of the top 10 is Davante Adams. Davante Adams, wide receiver of the Green Bay Packers, a cheesehead. Now, if you guys have enjoyed thus far, please click that subscribe button. Now, Davante Adams, there's a big case for Davante Adams. He only played 12 games in 2019, wide receiver number 24 in 2019, 212.7 PPR points, 83 receptions on 127 targets, 5 tutties, 34th amongst wide receivers, 997 yards, 26th amongst wide receivers. Okay, you give him 4 more games, he probably would have finished inside of the top 15 at wide receiver. Could have been a top 10 guy. Last year, he was my number 1 wide receiver. I really believed in him, and he got hurt. He got that turf toe. But you want to know what doesn't really linger? It's not a lingering injury. Turf toe, unless your name's AJ Green, because his toe loves the turf, and he always gets that shit. But Davante Adams is going to be great. I know Matt LaFleur likes to run the ball. I know this. I've watched all the fucking games. I saw them run it with Aaron Jones, run it with Jamal Williams. But when Davante Adams is healthy, Mr. Aaron Rodgers just finds him. Just throws the ball to him a million times. 127 targets in 12 games is amazing. Davante Adams is going to be very slept upon, because I think he has the potential to pass Tyreek Hill. Right now, I have Davante Adams as the 3 and Mr. Hill at 2, but I think we may flip-flop that by the time the season begins. Davante Adams is a guy I love. He is a guy that I think has very good potential. Now, Michael Thomas just gets fucking fed with targets. So that's the only worry why Davante Adams couldn't be the number 1. But the wide receiver 1, the quarterback 1, the running back 1, the tight end 1, the defense 1, the kicker 1 in fantasy football always changes. It's never the same guy. So it is my bet that Davante Adams is a top 10 player. I think he is able to stay healthy. I think Rodgers throws him the ball enough to make him worthy of a top 10 fantasy football ranking for 2020. So thank you guys all for watching this video. If you ended up enjoying, please make sure to click that subscribe button down below or on your screen right now. Check out the video above, the video on the left, and the video at the top left. Make sure to tell your family you love them. Make sure to stay safe. Make sure to have a great rest of your day, and make sure to check back tomorrow for another video. I love each and every single one of you guys. Make sure to have a great rest of your day. Good boy.